think he's here somewhere.
That lavender smells nice. Did you bring that?
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's your daily artichoke flower.
You brought
Adam,
that?
do you want to split my
Yeah.
coffee with me?
My artichokes aren't doing so good.
No?
Sorry.
They
Mine are
look-
doing really, really well.
They look kind of scraggly.
Good for you.
I don't know what it is. This is the only thing I can grow is artichokes.
Have you eaten them?
Oh, yeah.
Out of the garden? Yeah.
I ate your artichokes.
That's nice.
But now they're all going to flower. Because if you don't eat them right away, then they keep going. They make really cool flowers.
Yeah.
Who's first up?
Yours.
Is it you?
It's a 7 to
Oh,
7:30
Oh, I just spiel.
spiel.
And then Cynthia
I think I'm going to choose a spiel on the schedule.
Oh, I see.
There's no spiel on the schedule.
Attendance to give us
What
that.
But we love spiels.
Oh,
Yeah, that's kind of
Dropbox.
that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah, he changed it when it was first.
GMR reference.
Yeah. And then let me tell you how it's. Oh, sorry. Bimala, the remote should be. I'll come in 1 second. I just want to make sure that it's working.
Yeah, take your time. I mean, don't take your time.
We're going to lock you out.
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh,
701.
oh, shopping.
Lock the
Shopping.
door.
Year 1 tax. Lower middle way. Yeah, year 1 tax. Yeah, lower middle way.
What do I do to get on the screen?
Oh.
Apple
Nobody
TV
knows.
app on your top
Apple TV?
right.
Sorry.
Looks like a little
That
TV
looks
pop.
right.
This one?
That's my feeling about it. Boy.
That's AirPlay?
That's AirPlay.
It should be like a little. It's a little screen.
It's not AirPlay?
No.
Okay.
It looks like a little display, a little monitor.
It should come in automatically.
And yet here we are.
Does it have antennas?
No.
Should I have
This
the
one.
Bluetooth?
This one.
This one?
This one.
Okay, now that's AirPlay.
Oh, it is?
Oh.
It is.
Oh.
No, it seems to be working. It seems to be the thing.
Yeah, that's. Okay.
What's the code?
Yeah,
4968.
I have it.
Uh-huh.
We can't remember? Like
It's yeah, what's up with
All right.
Oh,
Cool.
it changes every time.
Oh.
Every time somebody logs on, it changes.
Oh, that's
You guys all on?
4968.
Okay, you ready? Let's do this. Nick?
Sashi. Sangye.
Chudam soki chonam la Chanchu pardu dagni kapsuchi Daki chunyen gi pe sonam gi Dola penchir sangye juparsho
Sangye.
Chudam soki chonam la Chanchu bardu dagni kapsuchi Daki chunyen gi pe sonam gi Dola penchir sangye juparsho
Sangye.
Chudam soki chonam la Chanchu bardu dagni kapsuchi Daki chunyen gi pe sonam gi Dola penchir sangye juparsho. All right then. Welcome to the second term It's exciting for me to have you all here. Do you need something word?
Just the password. To
Uh,
the wire.
1357, 1357.
That is it. Okay. Thank you so much.
Anyway, welcome. We have a new observer, which is Gibson Chen from Taiwan. And welcome. He's a real Dharma fanatic, and I think he'll be a good member of the team. I think in the beginning we'll watch to see how serious you are. And I distinguish between a primary translator and a secondary translator. So primary translator means they're translating directly from Sanskrit or Chinese or Tibetan. And then a secondary translator means someone who takes our English and translates it into their own country's language. So it could be Taiwan. It could be, I know Bengali might be listening. I'm thinking Arabic, French, secondary translators. So if we can start to develop a group of people who are secondary translators, I think, so in deciding who gets to join the class, I'm thinking first is primary translators. And in my idea, each primary translator has a backup. Or, you know, we have Chunzom and Jigme in the room to take over if one of you gets hit by a truck. Your text. And then we have, I'm thinking we could start developing secondary translators in the other room probably, since we don't have time. This morning there's a possibility that a sponsor will visit in one of the two classes, and he might either listen from Dr. Wu's office or he might come in here. But his name is Byron Tucker. He's an old sponsor of Three Jewels New York for 20 years. And he and his wife heads a hedge fund, very large hedge fund. It's probably billions of dollars, I guess. And so I'm kind of courting them. And you know, I'm hoping they can help support this thing. I have a long-term idea, which I've been developing with Dr. Wu. Is you see those books there on the shelf, and that shelf. Those are I believe the Chinese version of the canon. So you could say like the Kangyur Tengyur. Is it Tang Chao? I don't know.
No.
Different.
Recent, like Qing Chao.
Oh, okay. More recent dynasty. But we were kind of putting our heads together how to get money here. And we developed an idea to start a series like that. And I would like to go further with that. So I would like to have a series of maybe a couple hundred books. And I think it would help with fundraising. I'm thinking to sell you some idea about that, which is maybe by subscription. People could start to subscribe now to support us for the next 30 years or something. And, you know, they could start buying a set before the first book is done. And, you know, and I might include all the ACI courses and all the DCI courses. Something like that, I think. And then all your translations, and make it one kind of huge thing. You can see what we're doing with let me see if I have it here. This is the teacher training manual for this level. It's almost, it's 450 pages. It's insane. And it's cool. And so those would make nice books also, I think. And first you get these are the 4 legs of the teacher training. And then this is the teacher levels. And it took us 2 days in China. We had an event canceled in where? Hangzhou. And the organizer gave us a nice hotel room for 2 days. And we fought for 2 days, and we came up with 6 levels. 7 levels. And then these are the modules of the teacher training. anyway, I think what's happening is, and I wish I had brought the Singapore Level 8 manual. I have one at home, but it looks like a book, right? It looks just like a book, and I think we could start making books out of them, and they could be part of your series. So we could mix DCI manuals, ACI courses, and your translations. And then I'm thinking it could be a set of books like that, like the new canon. And then we would need someone who has recently gotten more time in his life to, his American employer just went Chapter 11, so he has some more time. Chapter 11 is before bankruptcy, so they start laying off people. So I was trying to think of, I mean, I shouldn't sell you this in public, but, because it puts pressure on you, but I thought we could start, you know, it'd be a way to get an income for your work for the next 50 years or something, you know, that you start selling subscriptions to this thing. And then it's going to be a huge amount of work to make it into books, you know, like a lot of work. And how, you know, what's going to be the final form of an ACI course, for example, is a huge amount of work. And then I think we have so many people interested in DCI. We had 6,000 or 7,000 people came in the last 2 weeks. And we had a record audience. I think it was 2,200 in Kuala Lumpur. And in Vietnam, it was 1,700, and we turned back 800. We turned away 800. So I think that's a market, you know, for your stuff. And, you know, it'll be just like this. Nobody will ever open them. And they'll be nice and shiny. But I've been to many Chinese people's homes, offices. I see that business people like to have them in their office. They look kind of, you know, that makes them look intelligent and spiritual. And, but it's good to have them in the world, you know. And if you make a set, then if you buy volume 23, you gotta have volume 24. And then we can spread them. And I think that books will become more rare. Like the reason all these books are here, I used to collect Tibetan books, is that I don't use them at all. I haven't used them for 25 years. I haven't opened them for 25 years. There's no need to. So I think they will become sort of collector's items. The Japanese were in Russia when I was there, and they were trying to buy rare manuscripts that they couldn't read to keep in their basement as collector's items. So I kind of think it would be interesting to have that kind of thing. And I think I have a big vision for our quality of our translations, and I'm going to be very demanding. And in this term, I'm not going to take lousy formatting and, you know, if it's not standard, I'll just give it back to you, because it took me, you know, I don't know, 100 hours, 200 hours to clean it up. Now you can see, each of you, you have your translation. You can see the standard of the formatting, and you can see the standard of the footnotes, for example. I think the footnotes, to me, differentiate us from other translations in conjunction with the readability. So to me, it has to be very readable, and it has to be very accurate. So I just see those two things go together. Usually, you either have one or the other. It's a diamond deal. Either it's readable, and it's poorly footnoted, or it's over footnoted. Eva gave me her doctoral thesis. It's 1,000 pages. I mean, I put it in my bathroom. It holds up. Anyway, and nobody will ever read it. I don't think so. But so that's one extreme, I think. And then the other extreme is to have something that they translated poorly and it sounds good and it has nothing to do with the original. You know, so I believe that your stuff will be a new standard, and I think it should be very readable, and I think it should have the footnotes. And I'm not going to do footnotes for you anymore. I'll help you, but I don't want to. I enjoy the work. I really enjoy it. For me, it's like eating candy, but you gotta learn to do it. I can't babysit you, so you're gonna have to try a little harder to notice what we did with the footnotes. So you have a certain number of pages now of the standard, and now it's up to you to continue it. And I'd like to speed up a little bit. We didn't go very far. We went about 3 pages into each text. 3 folios, 6 pages. And we got a lot more work to do than that. But I think the sponsors, Mr. Liu in Hangzhou, and Dr. Wu, and we have some sponsors now in Austria. So some Austrians approached me, 2 different Austrians who are wealthy. One of them owns like a BMW dealership, the largest in Europe or something. And the other is, I don't know what she does, but they both offered money, and they said, can you translate a book about the correlations, karmic correlations, So I thought of 2 books. One is the Karma Vibhanga, which is actually in the Kangyur. It's by Lord Buddha, and it tells, it's a long book of correlations by telling stories. Like the story of the boy with the crown of knives is in there, who goes to sea. And that story comes from there. And then the other famous source for correlations that I've used for the Diamond Cutter book is called The Crown of Knives. It was written by Dharma Rakshita 1,000 years ago. He was the teacher of Lord Atisha. And then there's a commentary. Me and Nick were looking for a commentary, and we finally found one in TBRC, and it's by, what's his name? Tembarabge, Chichen Tembarabge, who was related to Rajang Monastery, I think, which is Atisha's monastery. And that's the monastery where Tsongkhapa had a vision to write the Lamrim Chenmo. So this Lama lived about 200 years ago, and he gave 11 days of teachings on the Crown of Knives. And so I checked it. It's long. It will take Seiji, thinking Seiji to translate it. It would take him maybe, don't tell him, but I think it's scheduled for 10 years or something, or 5 years. It's not that long, but for me to translate, but for someone else to translate, it's going to take a while. Maybe 7 or 8 years. I've planned your workout for 10 years, the first 10 years. I think his is going to take about 10 years. But anyway, so I was reading it, and it's exquisite. It's beautiful. I mean, the first thing he jumps into is the 3 kinds of marmahata: the butcher, the carpenter, the tree cutter, and the person who stops the magic machine. Which you guys had in tantrics. You had it in our tantric course. It's a big theme in Naropa for the chakras. And he jumps right in and relates. The first day he's relating the Crown of Knives to the chakras and working in the chakras. And I was like, wow, this is going to be cool. So and it gets better. So Seiji asked me if he could join and if he could have a text. They really need him to administer the programs here. He's indispensable. He's doing a lot of work, and he's really good at it, unfortunately for him. So I negotiated with Scott Norrie, and he can join the translators group, but only for his classes. So he'll get a class every 2 days or something. And I think he and people like Gibson are sort of between primary translator and secondary translator. So if Seiji works on a book, going from Tibetan to English, he'll quickly be able to translate that into Spanish, which is his mother tongue. He'll probably need help with the English, as will Sugang, Allison, and Stanley. But when we hit the secondary translation, you'll be able to do it much better because you did the English. And we'll help you fix the English. But then when you get to translating that into modern Chinese, then that'll be exciting. Because part of my plan is that is to call on your pride and possessiveness, and because I've noticed that I have it myself, about something you translate. So once you translate something, you get very possessive of it, and it's your baby, and you, for the rest of your life, you will meet people on trains or airplanes and say, did you know I translated this? And start boring them with your... V won't even let me start talking anymore. She's like, okay, you know, like all dinner I'll tell her about something I'm translating, and she's just, her eyes are going like this, and, you know. So anyway, you'll start to get this heavy investment in your text, and people will say, you know, introduce you as, oh, this is the guy who translated Dharma Rakshita, you know, and. So my plan is to accelerate that process by at the ACI retreats. So the next 3 retreats, Lam Rim retreats, are Guadalajara, and then the one after that is Diamond Mountain, and then the one after that is Thailand, which is basically Chinese people. Then I had a cool idea that 2 of our translators speak fluent Spanish, obviously Seiji and Nick. And then 3 of you are Chinese speakers, and then the rest are English speakers. So I thought it kind of matches the next 3 Lam Rim retreats. The next one is mostly Spanish speakers there. The next one after that, and we have to talk about ACI, Jigme, about ACI. I think they need some grease down there.
In Mexico?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think ACI should give some scholarships or something.
Oh, I see.
I think we should talk about doing some scholarships.
Okay.
I have some parts of that I need to talk about with you
I
guys
think
too.
they're already doing it.
Yeah, I have some things we need to
Yeah.
talk about with that too.
Do you
I just had a strong dream this morning about Mexico, very strong. So I thought we had to do something. And I think we have to crank it up for local people. And that would take some scholarships, I think, scholarship help. And we have money, and it was meant to go to Mexico.
Sure.
So I think it's kind of a synchronicity, you know, because they need it right now. Okay, but anyway, we'll talk about that separately, maybe with you 2 guys. These next 4 or 5 days I have time. I don't have to go home. V's helping somebody in Phoenix, so, you know, I'm just kind of lonely, and I can hang out here. So anyway, I thought in Guadalajara, at least, and you guys, you and Seiji could talk about, could do a class about your texts. His is going to jump into sexy stuff so quick that it would make an interesting class, I think. Marma Hata means striking, what would you call it? Striking the... Nedanumba, striking the killing point. It's the killing point. Like if you know where the killing point is and you're a wushu master, you can go duck and the guys will go. You know, instead of like bum 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 bum. There's this idea that if you just go like duck, then
Death touch.
death touch. So it comes in Seiji's text in the first few pages. So that would make a nice lecture. And then your text you can pick where you want. You know, your text is a I won't say bitch, but it's really hard. Yours is probably the hardest one. Yours and Utpala. No, not Utpala. Somebody else. No, I don't think it's yours. Yours. Oh, it's Word and Nick's are the only 2 that I have any kind of problem with. Yours is a super. Anyway, I gotta take some time and work on that. So anyway, I thought, and then, so it's a natural in Thailand for Sugang, Stanley, and Allison to talk about their text. And then the rest of us who don't speak anything could do it in, whoever's going to DM in October could talk about their text. So I want to, just to get you started on being possessive about your text, I want to get you teaching it, you know, to people at the Long Room courses. About funding, we had, it's Trump's fault, as so many things. And anyway, when he was elected, he's promising to ruin the environment so that mining companies can do what they want and there's more jobs. So the American dollar suddenly shot up. I was in Mexico City that night with a senator, and he almost fell on the floor because his net worth dropped by 15% that night. And the peso got really weak. So then the Chinese yuan also got hit. And then China instituted controls not to purchase dollars, which is basically what Dr. Wu is doing when he gives us donations, because it has to be converted into dollars. So they put a lot of strict restrictions on the movement of yuan out of China, and then which is normal, and they have to. So anyway, we wrote a very complex contract so that it would be a commercial transaction and not a donation. And then he would buy your books for use in China or something like that. So we did a contract. I spent $7,000-8,000 on lawyers and many meetings with international lawyers. We have lawyers, we have American lawyers in Beijing, we have American lawyers here. And we have a team of lawyers here. It's $2,400 an hour. And we worked really hard. I mean, you saw that contract. I don't know how many pages it is. It's like 30, 40 pages long. And anyway, I did this contract. So it's tied up in, it's going to take a lot of work to do it. Mr. Wu has to be very careful in China. He's been questioned. He gets questioned once a year or something. And so we have to go slow. And I think it'll work. And in the meantime, we have enough money for the level of salary you're on now. My dream is to give you a more respectable salary of basically, in my mind, $50,000 a year for translators. But it's not going to happen soon. It's not going to happen in the next 3-4 months. I don't think so. I had hoped it would be in place by now. But I don't think it's going to happen. We'll have to go at the same level you have had. And we have enough money for that. We already have that money in the United States. And so you don't have to please don't get nervous about the level of funding you have so far. So just don't worry about it. We can maintain that. But my dream was to give you, my dream is that translators should get what other people get or more, because they are creating happiness for the world in the next 2,000 years. And, that's not the view of people about academics. They don't pay academics well. I have a different view. I think academics should get paid well. I asked Santosh Dwivedi to come and visit us. Do you have time to sit for an hour? I don't know. Or you have other things you have to do?
I have to return back at 10.
By what? 10 more minutes?
No, at 10 p.m.
Oh, do you want to sit in this class for 1 hour?
Yeah.
We are using, okay. So anyway, we should give him a hand. Please make him comfortable. Would you rather sit on the floor or on the chair? Okay. We can move down a little bit. So Santosh is in charge of the input center in Varanasi, India, which is called Kashi in India. You can come with me. Which is the cultural center of India. And it's where the Buddha first taught. Sarnath is there. And so he's been doing the Sanskrit for 12 years.
Yes.
I met him 13, 14 years ago in a Sanskrit shop. His father was a famous seller of Sanskrit books and a famous researcher of Sanskrit books, as is every other person in Varanasi. And so, you know, he had a very beautiful shop full of beautiful texts, and I got to be his friend. And then I said, how would you like to start a Sanskrit entry center for ACIP in Varanasi? So he agreed. And under John Brady's help, we built a center there, which is also, some of the floors are his home. And then during that time he got married, not just to ACIP, but to another lady, and has had 2 children.
Yeah.
And so they're running around and it's cool. He's a great collector of Sanskrit books. So in the basement there, which is where our staff work, it's a nice basement. It's pretty big. There's a storeroom of Sanskrit books up to the ceiling, many books, and then there's and people doing entry, Sanskrit entry. So
More than 600 books.
yeah. So we've been working on trying to recover the Buddhist books. There's 990 books we are looking for. There's probably only 50 that have been discovered so far, because they were destroyed. And he's been inputting them, and he's been doing a great job. We just came back from Singapore, and I used Nagarjuna from you. I used it. You know, we taught the Sanskrit
Yes.
in, where was it?
In a
KL.
few countries, in Singapore and JB, and I'm not sure about
Malaysia and Singapore and some in Vietnam, I think. So we're using your stuff in DCI. Then he came to a DCI event in Rome, Italy. We invited him because we wanted him to see the other side of how his stuff is used. And he was excited because it was a ladies' conference of business women. I think it was 900 business women, and he thought that was cool. And we had a good time. So I thought, and then he got interested in DCI. So he's signed up for the DCI teacher training, and he's taking the DCI teacher training, and he's done a good job helping us get DCI going in India. So the big university in Varanasi is called Banaras Hindu University. It's probably the most famous university in India. They have all the great Sanskrit scholars of India. They have a huge amount of them work there. And the graduates are very famous Sanskrit scholars. So we've given 2 lectures there for 2 years, and it was packed. We turned away 100 people, I think.
More than
Yeah.
approximately 1,000 people.
Yeah. So he's really going on DCI. And I think India is interesting because India has the largest percentage of young people in the world of any major country. India is 26% people under 25, I think. So it's a big future. China is aging. America already aged. Japan is way aged. These developed countries. But India's future is the strongest of all of them. Probably its GDP will pass China's in the next 4 or 5 years. And so I think for DCI, India's a big future. And so I'm excited to have Santosh here. And he's never really seen how we translate, how we work on the text, how we use his stuff. He just keeps typing. And he hasn't seen what we do with his stuff. So I thought it'd be exciting for him to sit in a class for 1 hour and see what we do. And yeah, I know I'm supposed to start. There was one more thing there. What was that? Anyway, we have to work hard in India. India's a big market for DCI. China, we started, with 1 talk and 12 people, and now it's thousands of people. And India, we're at that stage of just one talk a year or 2 talks a year. So I think we have to work hard on that. And we're trying to recover all the Sanskrit books. And we have a lot of nice contacts. So the other thing I wanted to say is Santosh is also a vision person, which I like. Some people are, some people are not. He has vision. So he's always bugging me, let's build a Sanskrit school here. Let's have people come for a month or 2 months or 3 months and study Sanskrit. They have an oversupply of talented young Sanskrit scholars who would love to teach Sanskrit. They speak Sanskrit. They sing in Sanskrit. They have debates in Sanskrit. And there's no work for them in India. There's not that many people who are interested in what they know. So the university there, which is very close to his center, keeps cranking out beautiful young PhD Sanskrit scholars who don't have work. And we have this dream, him and me, when we build his house, we build, in India you always build extra steel supports so you can build another 2 or 3 floors. Because land is very expensive in Varanasi. It's very ancient. It's one of the most ancient cities in the world, and it's expensive. The land is expensive, but we have the land. We can buy the land next door for not very much money. And what I'd like to see in the future is a Sanskrit school where you guys can go for a month, especially in the summer when it's 43 degrees centigrade, which we're going to hit. We might hit today. It's not normal here, by the way. I have to tell you that. No, not normal. It should stop within 3 days or something. But anyway, we would like to build an extra floor for a Sanskrit school, and there is nearby a Tibetan university in Sarnath, which is 45 minutes away. And we have a good team there proofreading things. And they are excited. They also have a lot of unemployable classic Tibetan scholars. And I believe that you might get a better Tibetan class there than in the monastery. And if we were tougher and more organized, these guys have been through PhD programs. So they're more likely to have an organized way of teaching you rather than having you come to puja and good luck. My dream, and it's not a lot of money, is $30,000 a floor. We could 2 floors is $60,000, I believe, and we could have you could go there for 2 months or a month and do Sanskrit and Tibetan, which would be very powerful for you guys. And then you'd be in a culture which is the great culture of India. This is the great center of culture of India for 5,000 years, 5,000 since Vedas. So it's amazing, So it could be really cool. So that's kind of why we got Santosh here. And I would like to see take him out for dinner, talk with him, work with, everybody just hang out with him. And then I want to throw you in the same pot and see things happen, and see you build up these things. I think it'd be cool to have a summer session. I used to have an apartment there. It's an amazing place. I was in the basement of the Kali temple or something. Well, it's not a Kali. It's Yamantaka or something. Who is it? Shiva, yeah. And this professor, we're under the building in a space like this high doing puja. And he leans over and he says, this is a different universe. And I'm like, really? And he says, yeah, when you come from the airport and you cross the border into Kashi, they call it Kashi, right? It's a different universe. Yeah, I'm like, okay, I believe you. And no, it's just a sacred place. It's a deeply ancient religious place. And so if we could have sort of a center there, a branch center there, I think it'd be really cool. It'd be good for you guys to absorb the land of the Buddha.